Native American Indians and speckled bird Israelites being Israelite foreigners scattered across the four corners of the earth, including within America, Babylon the Great, the main place for our captivity. And we are the Most High Yahweh chosen people of the nation of Israel. So without further ado, as always, in the Lashwan Kadash, meaning the Holy Tongue, is in the Paleo Hebrew, meaning the ancient Hebrew. I'm going to give all praises, glory, infinite honor to my power, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, whom is the God of a living, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Baruch Rash, meaning all praise to the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, in the name of his only begotten Son, Yahweh Shai, and the Holy Spirit, whom is our strength and our Redeemer, and our light and our salvation. On the same tongue, Adamashina, Kabawadium, Lahasaquanium, Shal, Gadawaraka, meaning double honors to the apostles and elder bishops, great millstone, for teaching and ruling well. And Shalom, honors and salutations to Bayashadawada, meaning the house of David, of the one-third elect remnant of the nation of Israel, along with the rest of the one-third elect men, women, and children of Israel. This is your fellow servant, Malak Rayab, back at it again, with another epistle through the spirit of prophecy, being a testimony of our Lord and Savior, Hamashak Habashai, who the master of the world ignorantly referred to, Jesus Christ. And this is another World War III algorithm update type of lesson, with your algorithm, World War III algorithm, just really, it really represents a conglomerate faction of various factions of war, including geoeconomically, geopolitically, and geomilitarily, all right, centered around Esau, Edom's satanic NWO agenda, all right, to wage war on the earth through those three top factions or components of war, to transition this current monetary system over to this new totalitarian dystopian technocracy. And this is why we're hearing, more reports of digital currency, cashless, more of a cashless society to developing America, and everything in general, everything related to what we just mentioned, to usher in, this grain and rice device. So, the device is going to replace this petrodollar, which is that MOTB, or that chip. So I'm going to start off with this. I'm going to play a couple of videos, bring out some information through these videos, and filter everything to biblical prophecy. And Adam Rogers ought to be further edifying and exhorting to the elect.
That's catching the attention. All right, guys, we got some moves being made here by China that's catching the attention of the U.S. military. They say that they're running simulation now on trying to run up into Cuba and the surrounding areas. And this is all in response to Trump's gunboat diplomacy, so to speak. Trump is now seizing vessels and holding the oil. They've blocked off this whole region. A lot of that oil is going to China, or was supposed to, China and Iran. So now they've been caught simulating this war scenario where China rolls up on Cuba and Mexico. And most of the time, this is rare. You don't get a chance to ever see or hear of any of this type of war gaming, so to speak. But they showed this on their national television, and some think that it's an ominous sign, like a warning to Trump that Xi Jinping and the Chinese are extremely ticked off. Now, in this whole simulation, there's a red team and a blue team. The red team representing China, the blue team, the enemy, or in this case, the United States. And it says that the blue side congregated near Houston, Texas, and then they headed down southeast into the Gulf of Mexico, while the red side was seen in the Caribbean, making moves up on Cuba and swooping in also on Mexico. So this is very interesting here, that they're war gaming, simulating a war in the Caribbean. Now, I want to remind everybody, if you missed the live show, we discovered that off the Rothschild Economist magazine cover for warnings going into 2026, they show a boat, a container ship boat that has missiles coming out of it, and it's shooting America on its 250th birthday, and that boat gets hit by a satellite from space. Well, China just unveiled a cargo ship that converts into a concealable missile destroyer. And there it is, right there. You can see it right here. How convenient. So these are things popping off with this massive simulation going down surrounding the Caribbean. And at some point, it seems any moment, things are going to pop off on this war front. And it brings it right up to our doorstep. I'll leave a link. Join me for the live streams Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, where I talk about this in greater detail. It's been WW7. Much love.
Con. All right. So, as he mentioned, in that Rothschild economist, news platform, I did a video on this regarding what they, Esau telegraphed. Then what can come in 2026, in so many words, in which there was a cartoon propaganda on the cover of that particular news piece that showed America being hit with nukes on the 250th so-called born day, which would be next year, May Day, all right, May of 2026. Okay, so this could very well go down in 2026 in terms of the destruction of Babylon the Great, the main place for captivity, and the ushering in of the MOTB system. All right, where Esau makes this he gradually presents the mark of the beast, which he has been before he makes it mandatory. So as WW7 was talking about how Esau was telegraphing the destruction of America on his 50th so-called born day in next year, 2026. All right, with nukes by America beating Babylon the Great, being hit with nukes. He mentioned China, China's missile program. It reminds me of this article that I came across a few days ago, and it's on Newsweek, and it's entitled "China Loads Over 100 Nuclear ICBMs into Silos." China has probably loaded more than 100 of its nuclear-armed solid-field DF-31 intercontinental ballistic missiles into 3 silo fields near its border with Mongolia. A new draft Pentagon report says, according to Reuters. The draft report, which could still change, also says that China does not want to have talks on arms control, Reuters reported, as is hoped for by President Donald Trump, who's pushing for denuclearization with Beijing as well as Russia and North Korea, and that's not going to happen. All right. Revelation 11:14 speaks about the third woe, as in the third world's war, as when the final war of all wars, okay, known as Armageddon in Revelation the 16th chapter. All right. So China, a part of the BRICS Union, along with Russia, India, South Africa, all right, are going to and those who share mutual hatred, through a sovereign indifference with America, Babylon the Great, are going to contribute into America being nuked. And this is prophesied. Okay. And these wars, these wars always start geoeconomically. That's why, as of right now, as he reported, as Dabu reported, they've been seizing oil within Venezuela, within the Caribbean, including within Venezuela, including 2 or 3 oil tankers from Venezuela, and then justifying them stealing Venezuela's oil through the guise of democracy, okay, to focus on the so-called gang issue of Venezuela's leader, Nicolas Maduro, supposedly allowing Tren de Agua, the Venezuelan gang Tren de Agua, to enter into America and terrorize America, okay, which Esau contributed into that through their open border policies in 2021 under the Biden administration. All right. Because all these so-called presidents and prime ministers, counselors, or chancellors rather, and so forth, all these individuals with these political titles, they're really all puppets, to the Zionist regime, the Zionist banking regime, because all wars are bankers' wars. That's why before World War I broke out, they had the Great Depression. Okay, the greatest economic recession that led into what they deemed the Great Depression before that war kicked off, because it was all orchestrated. All right. Now, same reason why they're seizing oil in Venezuela, seizing the world's most precious resources, including oil, all right, lithium and so forth. All right. The semiconducting microchip technology in Taiwan, which is why Esau has infiltrated Taiwan, using Taiwan as a proxy war, another proxy war against China. a part of the many proxy wars they've been waging on these particular nations, these foreign nations. All right. Because once again, all wars are bankers' wars. They fund both sides of the spectrum. That's why in 2021, when the Taliban had some kind of military parade, they were having that military parade with U.S. military weapons. Where did they get those weapons from? All right, these weapons contracted from the U.S. All right, so, hey man, where there's mayhem, where there's catastrophe, where there's harm, you can find this devil at the end of it. Roughly paraphrasing Sirach 12 and 17. All right, but let's start off with this first precept in Revelation. Revelation chapter 11 and verse 14. And it reads, "The second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly." All right. So the third woe is in war, is coming quickly. All right, this is Jeremiah 49 and 20. It says, "Therefore hear the counsel of the Lord Yahweh by Shem Yashai, that he had taken against Edom, and his purposes that he had purposed against the inhabitants of Teman. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitation desolate with them. And the least of the flock of the house of Basra, all right, the house of Edom, is Amalek, all right, who mightily known as the Zionist bankers." Okay. The individuals who set up, who perpetrated this fraud of these imposters, these Khazarian converts in Holy Land, to supposedly be deemed or perceived to be the Lord's holy people. So this Zionist regime are the people who are regulating or orchestrating these wars, including these proxy wars. All right. This is why, speaking of them, play this quick video, maybe a few minutes of it. All right. It's on the People's Voice. Fair use.
We stand by our number one ally in Israel.
Fair use.
So Netanyahu's holiday message to America isn't peace, it's a warning. 2026 is the year your children will be deployed to fight and die for Israel. As the Israeli Prime Minister heads to Washington for urgent meetings with the White House and Congress, understand this: he's not coming to negotiate, he's coming to finalize. One agenda, one destination: war. Not a limited conflict, not another proxy skirmish. A globalist war framed as destiny, wrapped in false prophecy, and paid for in American dollars and American blood. While you were distracted by holidays and headlines, the globalist machinery is already moving. And once it's switched on, there's no off button. Netanyahu has announced an urgent trip to Washington, where he plans to make the case for escalation before Congress and the American public. His message is blunt: accept it. Your sons and daughters will be sent to fight and die for Israel. Lindsey Graham has already been briefed, and he's been dispatched to beat the war drums. According to Lady Graham, 100% of US troops are eager to fight and die for Israel in a regional war it provokes.
So the men and women who serve, they're the ones going, not people answering a poll. And if you ask them, would you be willing to risk your life to stop the Ayatollah from having a nuclear weapon? All of them would say yes, because it makes their country, our country, safer.
Kash Patel helped.
You devils are not making this so-called country safer, because you're purposely waging these wars, for covetous, carnal, covetous, lascivious aspirations. Okay. To feed your own belly at the expense of the lives of many people. Case in point, just to further expose the hypocrisy of you damn devils, you'll pay an athlete millions of dollars within these bread and circus organizations like the NFL, NBA, and so forth to entertain a bunch of entitled, narcissistic assholes in America babbling the great, but you will not reciprocate the same energy towards these so-called noble men and women in your military. Okay? You know what you give them instead? A fucking purple ribbon. They get their limbs blown off, and they come back to America babbling the great, and you give them a goddamn purple ribbon. You don't reward them for risking their lives and losing limbs, okay, with millions of dollars like you these athletes. So that shit is all hot air. This warmonger Lindsey Graham was spewing, all right, because you devils are being exposed, man, all right.
Bury the Epstein files for Israel and the globalist elite. Now he's repeating the script. We need America to wake up and prioritize Israel, bring home Israelis, and make sure we stand by our number one ally in Israel.
According to Netanyahu, the Bible orders it. Christians must support the government of the modern nation of Israel, the nation created by the Rothschilds in 1947.
But those who partner with us advance progress and security for their peoples. President Trump just said it. It's also in the Bible. It says, those who will bless you will be blessed, and those who will curse you will be cursed.
And you devils are not, you are a cursed nation. It says in Sirach 41, you shall go from a curse to destruction. So you are not a blessed nation. Okay? All right? The Lord is fair in terms of giving the earth into the hands of your wicked hands, prophesied in Job 9:24, but you are not a blessed nation. So you completely misinterpreted that scripture to try to justify your wicked, twisted, demented agenda. It's really a satanic NWO agenda. All right, it's on behalf of these damn Amalekites. Speaking of which, let me play this quick video of this report of this attack on Nigeria by America on so-called Christmas Day. A day is supposed to represent peace and mirth and folly, all right, and unity. Yet these devils were waging war, all right. But like I said in Psalm 55:21, when they speak smooth words like butter, but they hide war under their tongues, because the self-proclaimed white man, the devil the Bible speaks of, the man of sin, the son of perdition, is a forked tongue. All right. So I'm going to play this quick video, play a few seconds of it, maybe a few minutes.
In-depth analysis. The world woke up today to a shock. The world woke up today.
Fair use.
To a shocking development that has sent ripples across Africa and Washington alike. In a bold and highly controversial move, President Donald Trump has confirmed that the United States carried out direct military strikes on suspected ISIS bases inside Nigeria.
Jessica, it was around 6 o'clock Eastern time tonight, about an hour ago, that President Trump announced that the U.S. had launched strikes inside of Nigeria, targeting and killing elements of ISIS in the northwestern part of the country. We don't know how many people were injured, how many were killed in this American strike. What we do know is President Trump says the reason the strike was launched is because he says Christians within Nigeria, as you mentioned, have been targeted, not just over the last year, but really over the last several years. He broke this news on Truth Social with a pretty lengthy post. I'm going to just read to you the back half of that post. He says, quote, I previously warned these terrorists that if they do not stop the slaughtering of Christians, there would be hell to pay, and tonight there was. The Department of War executed numerous perfect strikes. Merry Christmas to all, including the dead terrorists, of which there will be many more if their slaughter of Christians continues. We also saw the Secretary, Pete Hegseth, say, quote, that the president was clear last month. The killing of innocent Christians in Nigeria and elsewhere must end. He says the Department of War is always ready. So ISIS found out tonight on Christmas. More to come, and grateful for Nigerian government support and cooperation. We know, because we've confirmed with a Pentagon official, that the Nigerian government was working with the United States. There was approval, and they worked in conjunction on these strikes. So that is an important caveat to this story here. Just some background. In Nigeria over the last year, sectarian violence has continued to be a major problem. Tens of thousands of Nigerians have been either kidnapped or killed, both Christians and Muslims, targeted and killed by terrorist organizations like ISIS and like Boko Haram. In fact, human rights NGO International Society for Civil Liberties and Rule of Law says that this year alone, there were about 7,000 Christians that have been killed. Again, this has been ongoing essentially since 2009, when Boko Haram really established a foothold in Nigeria, Jessica. So we are seeing this killing, again, Muslims and Christians. But tonight, President Trump emphasizing the fact that Christians have been targeted and killed. He has been saying this for some time, that this might be a possibility. And tonight, on Christmas, we are seeing American strikes within Nigeria.
I play this next video. Same report, different platform.
All the people.
On Christmas evening, Donald Trump decided to strike Nigeria. Yes, we are looking at another war. Let's go ahead and get into it, ladies and gentlemen. So you have been hearing a lot that Christians are under attack in Nigeria. But it's not as widespread as they want you to believe. It's not as many people as they want you to believe. Notice that you're not hearing these individuals like Donald Trump, like Nicki Minaj, like corporate media tell you that a lot of Muslims have been killed in Nigeria. So we're going to break this down, folks. I'm going to tell you what this is really all about. One thing that you have to keep in mind is that the U.S. government is not there to help you. The U.S. government is not there to help the people of Nigeria. This is done under that disguise of help in protecting Christians in Nigeria. But that's not what this comes down to. It was reported just recently. You'll notice corporate media loves to cheer on war. Listen to this.
Jessica, it was around 6 o'clock Eastern time tonight, about an hour ago, that President Trump announced that the U.S. had launched strikes inside of Nigeria, targeting and killing elements of ISIS in the northwestern part of the country. We don't know how many people were injured, how many were killed in this American strike. What we do know is President Trump says the reason the strike was launched is because he says Christians within Nigeria, as you mentioned, have been targeted, not just over the last year, but really over the last several years.
Now, let's pause here for just a second. Remember that when Israel bombed Christian churches, there was no retaliation there. There was no, let's protect the Christians in Israel. Let's protect the Christians in Gaza. Let's protect the Christians in the West Bank coming from the Trump administration or the
hypocrisy.
Biden administration. Israel has routinely done this. They have attacked Christian churches in their vicinity. So if it's really about protecting Christians, why is this not happening regardless of the country? And that's something that you really need to pay attention to. So that is a way to push back on that rhetoric from the Trump administration. That's how you know this is not about Christianity. That is something that they are using as an excuse to go in, steal resources. We're going to get into all of it, ladies and gentlemen. And we're going to talk about this faction of ISIS that is in Nigeria and how they got there. Let's continue.
You can watch the rest of that, if you decide to, the Spirit leads you to. But speaking of that four-letter acronym she mentioned, that leads back to Amalek. This is a video regarding that four-letter acronym, ISIS, the so-called terrorist group that Esau of America, Babylon the Great, is supposedly fighting. Supposedly it's associated with the Nation of Islam. It's actually not. All right. I'm gonna go ahead and play this quick clip to further uncover the true origin of this four-letter acronym that leads back to Amalek. All right, that further confirms that he is the one orchestrating these wars. All right, play this quick clip.
In Israel, you can look up CIA, or in our case, the Mossad. We thought we should ask, what shall we call it in English? You can translate the Hebrew words, as I said, Mossad is institute. But when they write a letter to their friends in the CIA or the British intelligence, what do they call themselves? It took a while. It was a matter of asking the Prime Minister's spokesman. The best you could do, because officially the Mossad is under the Prime Minister's office. And I think he sort of wondered why you want to know and all that, so we explained. And he came up with the Israeli Secret Intelligence Service. I mean, if it were to have initials, it would be ISIS.
You see that? See, this is the very same group that Hillary Clinton, on behalf of Al-Qaeda, admitted that, the U.S. to the CIA was funding and training. So these various groups of quote unquote ISIS, all right, these very militia groups within this quote unquote ISIS organization are literally set up and funded by the U.S. And that further confirms that those individuals in Nigeria under this organization are there on behalf of the interests of the U.S. It's further confirmed that they're the ones terrorizing the world through these terrorist organizations because they're funding them. Because the American funding of these organizations is on behalf of the interests of the Zionist bankers that runs the Holy Land. All right. And that Israeli regime down there. spearheaded by or ran by Bibi Satan Yahoo. All right.
Just simple words like that. Interestingly enough, kind of a British model.
That's it. So this 4-letter acronym has nothing to do with them Muslim nations, but rather Amalek. Okay. So let me see. Let me see here. So that lines with this precept, this prophecy, Jeremiah 49:20. Therefore, hear the counsel of the Lord, Yahweh Ba'Shem Yeshai, that he had taken against Edom, and his purposes that he had purposed against the inhabitants of Teman, which represents the Germans. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitation desolate with them. So the least of the flock of the house of Edom, okay, are leading these nations out into war. Okay, through their various terrorist organizations, the CIA, all right. Using the leverage of their petrodollar, okay, to slap tariffs on people like India back in August, DJT and the Nero number 47, okay, slapped or applied an additional 25% tariff on, or applied an additional 25% of worth of tariffs on India for allowing Russian gas, or Russian oil to be imported into India. So what business was that of the U.S.? Because they're using the leverage of their petrodollar and the strength and stability of their military industrial complex, representing Esau Edom's blessing, the sword, to exacerbate and exhaust the resources of these foreign nations, like that this woman reported on her platform. Because it all leads back to Amalek. All right. Jeremiah 49:21. The earth is moved at the noise of their fall. At the cry, the noise thereof was heard in the Red Sea, which is around, the areas of these Muslim nations around there, the Euphrates, or near the Euphrates River, the Tigris River. All right. Around the Persian Gulf. Okay. Within the area of Yehoshaphat in Joel, the 3rd chapter, where his last world's wars prophesied to take place. Quick precept in Revelation 16:12. And it says, and the 6th angel poured out his vial upon a great river Euphrates, and the water thereof was dried up, that the way of the kings of the east might be prepared. All right, and the Euphrates River actually did dry up a few years ago. Okay, so prophecy is being further fulfilled. All right, to further to showcase the end of times, these perilous times within these ending times we're living in, and where these kings of the east, within the eastern hemisphere of the world, specifically the northeastern hemisphere of the world, are furbishing their swords, prophesied in Ezekiel 21:9 on down. All right, furbishing their modern day swords, their nukes, the weapons of mass destruction, to aim at each other, and specifically America, Babylon the Great, on behalf of these foreign foes of America within these various foreign nations. All right, I'll grab that real quick. Jeremiah 50:9. And it says, for lo, I will raise and cause to come up against Babylon an assembly of great nations from the north country, and they shall set themselves in array against her. From thence she shall be taken. Their arrow shall be as of a mighty expert man. None shall return in vain. So these mighty arrows are these nukes, and they're not going to miss their mark. All right, which is America, Babylon the Great. This is Joel 3:2. It says, I will also gather all nations and will bring them down into the valley of Yehoshaphat, and will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations and part of my land. All right. Which you devils did. You part of our land mainly through the siege of Jerusalem, all right, during Roman persecution in 70 AD, causing the southern kingdom, predominantly on the scene, the so-called Negro tribes, to flee to the mountains that Yahushua told us to flee to in St. Luke, the 21st chapter, all right, which are the Atlas Mountains, located within northwestern Africa, around Algeria, all right, the Saharan Desert, Morocco, so forth. Okay, so you're going to pay for that. All right, this is Joel 3:9. Proclaiming this among the Gentiles, prepare war, wake up the mighty men. Let all the men of war draw near, let them come up. Beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I'm strong. And plowshares represents farming tools, of agriculture. Okay. So that transition from plowshares to swords represents the transition from peace to war. Joel 3 and 11. Assemble yourselves and come, all you heathen, and gather yourselves together round about. And did it cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Lord Yahweh, by Shem Yeshua, with the angels? Because this war is going to be a war between the realms. Prophesied in 2nd Ezra, the 13th chapter. Joel 3 and 12. Let the heathen be wakened and come up to the valley of Yahweh Shaphat. For there will I sit to judge all the heathen round about. All you heathen, okay, you non-Israelites within your armies are going to partake in this war, and you will be obliterated, man. You will be completely annihilated and eviscerated, all right, within this thermonuclear fire and radiation produced by these intercontinental ballistic missiles, all right. So it's a major thing that is reported that China, is loaded 100 missiles, 100 nuclear ICBMs into the silos because they're furbishing their swords, man. Speaking of China, like there's a reported here on this report on Dabu's platform, all right, how Trump's Western Hemisphere defense posture included expanded gunboat diplomacy in the Caribbean, was targeting Venezuela and by extension Cuba, all right, disrupting Venezuela to Asia oil flow. So that oil through those oil tankers that you devils been seizing from Venezuela is affecting the sovereign business of China and Venezuela, because both Russia and China of the BRICS Union are top international business partners with Venezuela, okay, because Venezuela holds the world's largest oil reserves. So they have a lot of business with oil, all right, so oil, petroleum, and so forth, produce a lot of products. So you're literally crippling their business in China. That's why they're involved, okay, because it leads back to what Amalek is doing, waging these wars through these proxy wars and so forth, because Amalek regulates everyone's finances through the central banks and the IMF. So he's really behind it. Why? Because once again, these wars are bankers' wars. All right. Speaking of which, let me play this video because you're being sought after. You play this video.
Sons and daughters, colleagues, veterans will all have a part to play, to build, to serve, and if necessary, to fight. And more families will know what sacrifice for our nation means. That's why it's so important that we do explain the changing threat and the need to stay ahead of it. Well, I've argued that Russia's campaign in Ukraine has so far been a strategic failure, with NATO bigger, more united, stronger, and spending increased amounts on rearmament. We should be under no illusions that Russia is a massive, increasingly technically sophisticated, and now highly combat experienced military. War is enormously costly. And I know I don't need to tell this audience that while the price of peace may be rising, the cost of strong deterrence is still far, far less than the cost of war.
All right, so this individual, Richard Knighton, that was just speaking, which is a new head of Britain's armed forces, warned that more Britons need to be ready to fight for the country due to an increasingly dangerous world. Okay, and Britain is the mother of America. So why do you make that statement? Because these leaders, including these European leaders, understands that we're living in the last days, and they don't want to be at the wrong end of the spectrum of being being in a disadvantageous situation to be destroyed, by being vulnerable. All right, because they see the writings on the wall. Speaking of Europe, I'll play this quick video. It's on the brother Saints of Jersey platform. The brother Damiad had put up. All right, let's see the brother Yao Shop had just put up. That's through the Spirit put up a video of the same, including the same clip. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and play this video. Titled European leaders announce enemy of the U.S. in the lines of Revelation 17 and 16. How the beast representing the European Union, and these NATO forces and such, okay, will have an evil eye towards their top NATO ally, America, where it says, the beast shall burn the whore, Revelation 17 and 16. So you devils waging war on the world is causing division between your own comrades, okay, because you're not fit to rule this earth. Because the only true way to rule the earth is in righteousness.
Furious European leaders are now declaring the United States under the Trump regime to officially be an enemy, to officially be an adversary, to be a, quote, systemic adversary. That's the language being used by a French general, Nicolas Richoux. He says the USA are now a systemic adversary, and similar measures banning entry into European areas are essential against the United States. This as the United States State Department has sanctioned European leaders, banning them from entering the United States. Europe is also saying that if the United States dares to invade Greenland, as the United States is threatening to do, Europe is prepared to go to war against the United States and Donald Trump. This is what it has come to. Europe, our former top allies, are now having to speak firmly that they are ready for war against the Trump regime and that they are prepared for reciprocal sanctions against Donald Trump and the United States. And by the way, this comes as the United States has been meeting with top Russian officials in Miami to again try to figure out how to force a surrender upon Ukraine. So while the U.S. is meeting with Russia in Miami to plot conquest of Ukraine and conquest of Greenland, you have Europe saying enough is enough of this crap.
Right, so it's been exposed that America, Babylon the Great, the whore, has been entertaining partnership deals with Russia to aid Russia with seizing more Ukrainian territory, which is very interesting because Ukraine is modern day Khazaria, okay, where you imposters claiming to be the Holy Land migrated from before the state of Britain and Lionel Walter Rothschild set up a coalition to allow you Khazarian converts, okay, to and dwell in that Holy Land now. So the fact that modern day Khazari Ukraine, okay, is being is under the coercion, between America and Russia is very interesting. This is what has caught the attention of a lot of NATO allies of America. Because they're saying, hold up, you're supposed to be on our side. Why are you in cahoots with Russia? Okay, so the whore, America, just like a true whore does, straddles the fence. They don't know what side they want to fight on. They just want to monkey branch every damn where. Okay, and that's what causes division. Because speaking of Greenland, Trump at the beginning of the year said that he planned to invade Greenland. Well, even though Greenland isn't a direct NATO member, it's still covered by NATO's collective defense under Article 5, because it's a autonomous territory of Denmark, which Denmark is a founding NATO nation. So that's angering Denmark for Trump to say that he wants to invade Greenland. All right. So then, along with Denmark and other, NATO members, they're saying, hold on. Okay, well, F you, man. Well, F you back. Well, we're going to, since you want to be selfish and, abide by your own personal aspiration, we're going to do the same thing. Because NATO represents a military machine of partners supposed to, share the mutual interests with America, to protect America in exchange for, equal partnership, international possibilities, through these international markets to trade and so forth. But America, the whore, Babylon the Great, is not holding up her end of the bargain. So that's causing more division. All right. So just a quick update on that Greenland situation. All right. So this is grab this next precept in Isaiah 13:4. Says, a noise of a multitude in the mountains, like as of a great people, a tumultuous noise of the kingdoms of nations gathered together. The Lord, Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yashai of hosts, mustered the host of the battle. They come from a far country, from the end of heaven. Even the Lord, Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yashai, and the weapons of his indignation to destroy the whole land. Indignation meaning righteous anger. And these weapons are these nukes. Howl ye, for the day of the Lord, Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yashai is at hand, and shall come as a destruction from the Almighty. Therefore shall all hands be faint, and every man's heart shall melt, and they shall be afraid. Pains and sorrows shall take hold of them. They shall be in pain as a woman that travaileth. They shall be amazed one at another. Their faces shall be as flames. All right. A lot of these people are going to be caught on fire. They're going to be destroyed by bathing in a lake of fire, mainly by taking that mark of the beast, that chip. All right. Behold, the day, speaking of which, you know, they, this is a video put up by GMS Watchman. All right. Subscribe and be edified. He reported that down there in Marshall Islands, which I believe is a territory located between Hawaii and the Philippines, you know, become the first island or the first area to, you know, to launch the world's first universal basic income scheme offering cryptocurrency. So this is going into the gradual transition of this monetary system where the petrodollar, you know, through cash is still king, over to this new totalitarian dystopian technocracy where everyone's lives are going to be expected to be regulated through that you know, that MOTB infrastructure, through the microchip technology. All right. So there's a quick report on that. All right. And another sign that the world is circling the drain is a state of the economy through hyperinflation and so forth, including the price of gold and silver. All right. So I'm gonna get into momentarily. But this is Isaiah 13:9. Behold, the day of the Lord Yahweh by Shemeshah cometh cruel, both with wrath and fierce anger, to lay the land desolate, and he shall destroy the sinners thereof out of it. For the stars of heaven and the constellation thereof shall not give their light. The sun shall be darkened in his going forth, and the moon shall not cause her light to shine. And I will punish the world for their evil, and the wicked for their iniquity, and I will cause the arrogancy of the proud to cease, and will lay low the haughtiness of the terrible, which you Edomites specifically. All right. So this is Jeremiah 50:31. And it reads, Behold, I'm against thee, O thou most proud, saith the Lord God, Yahweh by Shemeshah of hosts. For thy day is come, the time that I will visit thee. And the most proud shall stumble and fall, and none shall raise him up. And I will kindle a fire in the cities, and shall devour all round about him. Thus said the Lord Yahweh by Shemeshah of hosts, the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together. All right, which are the respective tribes of the kingdoms of the northern kingdom. Okay, regarding the context of the mentioning of Israel and Judah representing the Negro tribes, so-called Negro tribes. It says, and all that took them captives held them fast, they refused to let them go. Their Redeemer is strong, the Lord Yahweh by Shemeshah of hosts is his name. He shall thoroughly plead their cause, that he may give rest to the land and disquiet the inhabitants of Babylon. All right, and you know, part of him giving rest to the land is bringing destruction on our land, the Holy Land, where you devils are dwelling, you imposters, you know, pursuing Revelation 29, okay, before he eventually brings the true children of Israel back into their land, you know, prophesied in St. Matthew 24, 31, you know, on down, you know, the book of Ezekiel, somewhere in the book of Ezekiel, I believe it's the 37th or 39th chapter, going into that prophecy as well, how the true children of Israel will be restored back into the Holy Land. But so this is why war is imperative, you know, for that prophecy to take place. All right, within these end time prophecies coming to pass, you know, slowly but surely. So Jeremiah 50:35, a sword is upon the Chaldeans, said the Lord Yahweh by Shemeshah, and upon the inhabitants of Babylon, and upon her princes, and upon her wise men. A sword is upon the liars, and they shall dote. A sword is upon her mighty men, and they shall be dismayed. A sword is upon their horses, and upon their chariots, and upon all the mingled people that are in the midst of her, and they shall become as women. A sword is upon her treasures, and they shall be robbed. All right. So you're gonna be robbed, man. Okay. There's a sword gonna be on your treasures. Okay. This is St. James 5:1. Go to now, ye rich men, weep and howl for your miseries that shall come upon you. Your riches are corrupted, and your garments are moth-eaten. Your gold and silver is cankered, and the rest of them shall be a witness against you. And shall eat your flesh as it were fire. You have heaped treasure together for the last days, regarding you Zionist bankers. Let's look at this word cankered. All right.
Strong's G 2728. Katiao. Katiao.
Right. Greek or Latin term katiao, to rust or to cover with rust. All right. Meaning what? Your treasure going to corrode because it's worthless. That's why you know, through the Fed, you devils print, you know, these petrodollars, these greenback dollar bills, you know, exponentially, you know, constantly, And really what you're doing, just by doing so, you're releasing more debt into the atmosphere, into the environment rather. Okay. Because that's all the petrodollar is. Under the Federal Reserve Act, it was back in 1913, composed back in 1913 by these bankers. It was to be set up as a debt weapon and utilized as such. And this is why, people that are chasing after these FRNs don't understand that they're literally chasing death. Okay, a debt note. Okay, this is why your gold and silver is cankered, is covered in rust, because it's worthless. All right. Verse 4, behold, the hire the laborers who have reaped down your fields, which is of you kept back by fraud, and the cries of them which have reaped are entered into the ears of the Lord of Sabaoth, meaning the Lord of the armies, Yahushai. Ye have lived in pleasure on the earth and been wanton. Ye have nourished your hearts as in the day of slaughter. Ye have condemned and killed the just, and he doth not resist you. And it's really Jake, because we have no power to resist you. It says in the curse in Deuteronomy 28 how we will have no power and we will have no might in our hands to prevent you from harming our children. Casting them off into your so-called scholastic school systems to indoctrinate them with your pro-Edomite curriculum. Okay, and so forth. St. James 5:7. Be patient, therefore, brethren, until the coming of the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yashai. Behold, the husbandman waited for the precious fruit of the earth and had long patience for it until he received the earth in latter rain. Earth early in latter rain, Slakia. Be also patient, establish your hearts, for the coming of the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yashai draweth nigh. So Yahweh Shai is on his return, man. He's on his way back. Okay, to stop you devils from being, from heaping treasures together that don't belong to you, including the gold you stole from Eve from the so-called Puerto Ricans. Hence why he called the island Puerto Rico, meaning Puerto Riches, as a name prediction. Okay, all right, including the oil you're stealing from these nations, including Venezuela. Okay. Which further identifies the tribe of Asher, it describes Asher dipping his feet in oil. All right. The modern day Inca Indian and so forth down in South America. All right. But then Brazil, Venezuela, Colombia and so forth, stealing their oil. All right. By seizing these oil tankers, Venezuela as of recently. See, so once again, being that all wars are bankers' wars, the state of the economy will further indicate how close we are to war. Speaking of which, Apostle Tahara, this last quick video, I'm not going to play it, but you can watch it. 62. Elder Apostle Tahara brought out how from the 1980s up until now, the price of silver has gradually to expeditiously increased. And that's unheard of. Why? Once again, that's another sign that, this America is getting ready to have war waged on it by way of the state of its economy being over $38 trillion in debt and counting. And that's going to lead into the destruction of America, Babylon the Great. So I'm going to end this off in Jeremiah 50:40. It says, as the Most High God, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yashai, overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah and the neighbor cities thereof, said the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yashai, so shall no man abide there, neither shall any son of man dwell therein. No biological organism will dwell in America except for the doleful creatures, the dragons of the wilderness, the lizards and so forth. Okay. Mankind is those who takes that chip, they're going to be consumed in a lake of fire, the second death, by taking that chip. The next major prophecy that's going to come to pass by Esau making it mandatory before the battle of Armageddon brings forth the conclusion. So I'm ending it off on that note. Pray this lesson was for the edifying his audience elect. Give all praise, glory, infinite honor to my power, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, whom is the God of the living, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yashai, Baruch Hadash. All right, once again, double honors to the apostles and elder bishop of the great millstone for teaching really well. And shalom, honors and salutations to Bayashadabadad, the house of David, of the 1/3 elect remnant of the nation of Israel, including the Akim and a few Akwat tuning in. All right, including Akwat on the comment board, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yashai, Barakatham, Walmawath, Lababal, soon and very soon, and on to the next one.